My t-shirt says doing well. I am not doing well. So I had a terrible interview last week. Basically, I had nothing to say. I didn't want to talk about my achievements because I didn't feel like I had any. It was a lot of me pausing and me being nervous. The interview was just slipping through my fingers and I couldn't do anything to save it. I wrote a script, but like, who cares? Hello, my name is Georgia. I'll be talking to you today about imposter syndrome, what it looks like, and the books that I am going to read to help me combat it. Because imposter syndrome sucks and nobody likes it. How you know you're definitely an imposter? Yeah. So to try and figure out where my feelings of, oh my god, I definitely know nothing stem from, I read books. I read one book. I read like 1/4 of a book. I'm actually reading a book now, published in 2011 by Valerie Young, titled The Secret Thoughts of Successful Women: Why Capable People Suffer from the Imposter Syndrome and How to Thrive in Spite of It. So I was dealing with imposter syndrome because I don't think my skill sets are all that impressive. Anybody can just go online and learn how to write, learn how to read, learn how to film videos, edit videos, just, marketing. Go online, ask Google. Google has all the answers. It doesn't help that I don't think that I'm an expert at any of it. When people ask me, what can you do well? I just be like, That's my answer always. But the real problem is I just don't think that I'm good enough. So the interview that I went to, right, is for a managerial role, and I kept asking myself, who do I think I am to want to be a manager? For that, I went for a startup program that is ending soon. Halfway through, I think to myself, who am I to want to start a startup? The worst question is, because this question ties back to my own identity, who am I to think of myself as a writer? To answer all these questions, we have to first understand where does imposter syndrome come from? Usually, imposter syndrome rears its ugly head with famous and accomplished people who think that they haven't accomplished anything. So famous people like Michelle Obama to Matthew Perry have experienced imposter syndrome. But it's really that feeling of inadequacy telling you, are you really supposed to be here? Have you really done anything remarkable? Ordinary people like you and I get imposter syndrome too. I thought about all the times imposter syndrome prevented me from doing good work, and I thought to myself, that's one too many times. Even right now I feel I really don't want to do this, but I'm doing it. How do you really deal with imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome happens to anyone. But especially if you're part of a marginalized group or part of a group of people who've had to prove their worth to others in public spheres of power and authority. A lot of the imposter experience, as Young puts it, may feel deeply personal, but there is a larger social context. Knowing this can help you connect the dots between what's happening out there and your own feelings of inadequacy. She isn't the only one who links imposter syndrome to the society around us. As recent as February 2021, an article published on the Harvard Business Review titled "Stop Telling Women They Have Imposter Syndrome" suggested that overcoming imposter syndrome is not to fix individuals, but to create an environment that fosters a variety of leadership styles and in which diverse racial, ethnic, and gender identities are seen as just as professional as the current model. Basically, what that means is we need a wider model of what leadership looks like, and we need it right now. The article also questioned what confidence is, saying that the same systems that reward confidence in male leaders, even if they are incompetent, punish white women for lacking confidence, women of color for showing too much of it, and all women for demonstrating it in a way that's deemed unacceptable. Of course, the article is written in the context of corporate America, and I live in Singapore, but I think it's pretty telling that it's been 10 years since Young's book was published and we are still circling back to this issue. Maybe because I experienced it myself, and maybe that's implicit bias, but I think that imposter syndrome does exist. It's just that we don't often look at it through the wider lens of society and the impact of racism, classism, xenophobia, and other biases. Instead, we place the burden of easing imposter syndrome on ourselves and all too often on women too. Now that we got that context out in the open, it's time to ask ourselves some difficult questions. All these questions are basically like what you can do yourself, but you also have to realize that the system is a bit broken. Please view this through the lens of the wider context. The first question is, what are you getting out of this? It may sound counterintuitive, but there are positives that come from this. By positives, I mean things that make you feel good or protect yourself from feeling bad. Some of these examples from Young's book include like constantly changing jobs so you will never know whether you will climb up the career ladder, or getting a lot of sympathy from friends when you keep talking about something that you are convinced is gonna fail. Because these feelings feel good to you, you feel like you're falling back on it. It's like a cushion, you know? you feel good when people give you sympathy, or like you feel like you're preventing yourself from ever feeling terrible because you're never gonna fail if you don't try. To figure out what you get out of your imposter syndrome, the book suggests to ask yourself 3 questions. What does this behavior help me avoid? What does it protect me from? And what does it help me get? After you figure that out, you can ask yourself these questions. 1. What will happen if I never change this pattern? 2. What price will I pay? 3. What opportunities would I miss? And 4. What options or possibilities would be closed to me? And these questions help you figure out what you're missing out on or what your imposter syndrome is costing you if you continue down the road of the imposter. You also need to understand how you currently behave. So to do that, we can look at our coping mechanisms. Young's book separates this into 7 categories. There's a lot of numbers in this video. Please bear with me, I'm not good at numbers also. Or maybe that's my imposter syndrome speaking. I keep telling myself I'm not good with numbers, then I will never be good with numbers. 1. Diligence and hard work. Putting 150% into something so that your achievements can be pegged to your hard work. 2. Holding back. Not allowing yourself to showcase your achievements, or not even participating in the first place so you cannot fail in front of others. 3. Charm or perceptiveness to win approval. The use of humor or charm to deflect from the aspects of yourself that feels the most fake to you. 4. Procrastination. Something that I know very well. Putting off something that you feel will lead to your eventual undoing. Maybe not doing a report because you think it will expose how you actually know nothing. 5. Maintaining a low or ever-changing profile. Picking a role that will keep you under the radar or changing jobs so that you will remain undetected. 6. Never finishing. An extreme version of procrastination. Usually you're at the brink of finishing something but you never actually do. Maybe you've been trying to finish your PhD but you keep pushing back your dissertation. 7. Self-sabotage, which is doing something a little or a lot self-destructive, putting other competitors in a better light than yourself so that you diminish your own chance of success. A little note for self-sabotage from the book. Basically, not all self-sabotage comes from feelings of inadequacy, but you know, it is one of the coping mechanisms that can come from your imposter syndrome. For me, procrastinating on something means that I can give an excuse that I never really put in my full effort if I fail, or if I say that I got something because somebody likes me. It minimizes the amount of emphasis that I put on what I've done, and by never submitting my writing to journals, never finishing that book that I wanted to write, then I will never know what it's like to experience failure or criticism. Great! I'm an imposter! I'm an imposter pasta! What should you do next? I'm still only at 1/3 of the book, but what I've learned so far has been helpful for me, and I hope helpful for you too. It's good to be aware of why you behave a certain way so that you can tackle it head on. For now, the next actions to take are, again, numbers 3, 4, 5. 1. Identifying your coping mechanisms to manage your anxiety behind your imposter syndrome. 2. Determining the cause and the functions of your imposter behavior. And also 3. The book literally says pick an action goal to focus on for this week. The goal can be to work on any of your coping mechanisms. I decided not to hold myself back. Put myself on a public platform that is ripe to rip me apart. Here are some books and some resources. Actually, it's just mostly books. Apart from finishing this book, I'm looking at reading other books. The books on my to-be-read list is see me always very long. The Imposter Cure, Escape the Mind Trap of Imposter Syndrome by Dr. Jessamine Hibbert. The Healthy Mind Toolkit by Alice Boyce. Boyes. And Why Do I Feel Like an Imposter by Dr. Sandy Mann. M-A-N-N. Is that man or man? Let's do a comment below. Is it man or is it man? We don't know. Please tell me I'm not butchering anybody's names. I try my best with your surnames. I want to read a lot of books. But like Valerie Young wrote, anything that involves a lot of steps or time to complete almost always gets done in small focused chunks over a period of days, weeks, months, or even years. She's probably not the first one to say it, but having small achievable goals really helps when you are working on doing things like slaying a huge monster in D&D. Or you know, a huge project that seems difficult to complete, because the hardest part of doing anything is just basically getting started. Thank you for watching this video. I spent and I still spend a lot of time lamenting the lack of important things I have to say. I still kind of feel like an imposter. Even while I'm writing, editing, and recording this, I still kind of feel like I shouldn't be doing this, but I know I just have to get started. Yeah, so here's my start. I'm not done yet. I still have 2/3 of the book to finish, and also other books I like to read with you, and other topics, big and small, not necessarily on imposter syndrome, that I would like to dive into. As someone who has been reading her whole life, I can't wait to be reading fiction. More fiction, a lot more fiction. I haven't been reading fiction. I need to say this because I need to see you next week, but the imposter in me is like, don't do it. Don't see them next week. Don't see anybody next week. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week. How do people say goodbye on YouTube videos? Bye!